Hey there, little buddies, and welcome to yet another edition of the Boob Tube Buddies podcast. In this episode, we discuss Chapter 8 of the FX original series, Legion. I'm Mothman, and I'm joined by the third-degree burns to my handsome little guy, Nathan.
I like... Well, first of all, sad. Second of all, I like how you committed to, like, the old-timey radio voice, like, halfway through.
Yeah, I
accidentally,
I realized I was doing
full
it.
Commitment.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, you, like, started, and then you, like, half committed, and then you're like, I guess that I'm stuck in this half math, this half radio voice thing that I'm doing. And just continued that way.
Anyway, I could never. There's a new series coming out. I can't remember the name, but Hank Azaria, who does all the voices on, not all, but a lot of the voices on The Simpsons.
On Simpsons, yeah.
He's gonna be in it. He was on Colbert, and he's basically playing like a 50s era baseball announcer, and it's kind of that voice.
Oh, okay,
yeah. Anyway, we're first off, we apologize for being late. Nathan took a vacation at one point during this show. I took one last week, and then our schedules didn't line up, so this is going to be airing the week after the show aired, but it is worth it. A lot happens. We're going to dive into it. Firstly, though, social media. Hit us up on Reddit, YouTube. We just got a new YouTube comment on our MIB video that we did for Westworld. They're like, man, I wish I found you guys during Westworld. I was like, hey, never too late to start listening. That literally happened this morning. So
that's great.
Anyway, be part of the conversation. As a lot of our regular conversers will attest, we might even write a song about you. JP for the Walking Dead finale did a song dedicated to Josh Brookshire, or Brookie Shy as we call him on the show, Kelly Choi, and then Brent, who are some of our most fervent tweeters. So, be part of the dialogue. We love it. Rate us on iTunes, and then also we have a Patreon now. So if you're wanting to find a way to support us and you're not necessarily interested in Audible or Blue Apron, you can do as little as $1 a month, and it just kind of goes to our operating cost, having the website up, posting all the episodes, all that good stuff. But without further ado, I think it's time for our first segment, Summon It Up in a Tweet.
Oh yeah, we're summon it up, so summon it up. Summon it up, oh yeah, we're summon it up. Oh yeah, we're summon it up, so summon it up. Summon it up and up.
Tweet. All right, so as always, mine aren't very good, but
That's not true. That's not true. Yours is fantastic. Yours do a much better job at actually summing up what happens in the episode.
I don't know
mine
that
just rhyme. That's it. Mine just rhyme.
So mine, I don't think does either this time because I just decided to commit to puns. I might not even be able to describe them all. So, all right, you ready for this?
Yes.
Clark in Dagger is no match for a god. David finally gets the Farouk out of here, and an Oliver twist followed by "Gotta catch David Hall."
No. Yours is better this time. I like yours.
I love that I just forced the Pokemon reference, even though his voice didn't actually fit the time
David
frame.
Haller.
Yeah, exactly.
Get the Farouk out of here is really, really good. I appreciate
Oliver
that
Twist
quite a bit.
Right?
Oh, I get Oliver Twist because there was an Oliver Twist.
Yeah, Clark
right?
and Dagger, Clark and
That's
his
fine.
men,
That's
right?
fine.
Okay.
Yeah, no, yours is better. Yours is better because you had the puns. It was double meanings all the way through, and it was actually about the episode. Where mine is not about the episode. It simply rhymes. That's all.
Fair enough. Let's hear it.
All right. Okay. So mine was in the spirit of cheering on our heroes as they fight against D23 here at the end, right? Mm-hmm. So I wrote them a cheer. This is meant for cheerleaders to do. Ready?
Okay. I am.
All right. Ready? The fight is on. It's finally here. Let's give a scream. Let's hear a cheer. They're gonna win. Let's hear a scream for the B-list FX X-Men team. See? There you go. It's all there just for the B-list FX X-Men team. That's the whole thing is written for that at the end. That's it.
Oh god, I'm glad you resaid that because I'll be honest, got cut out and I missed the build-up. Sorry.
The build-up? Are you kidding me? It's shitty if you don't hear the end.
Yeah, I didn't hear the end at all. Then luckily you just said it, so okay.
It's let's hear a scream for the B-list FX X-Men team.
Okay, very good. I'm happy with that first segment. I'm already pretty confident this was worth the week wait. And on that note, that was Summon It Up in a Tweet.
I'm sure everyone has been waiting a week, anticipating, like, God, I watched the episode, but I can't fully process it until I hear the tweets. I won't remember what happened.
I
until
don't
the tweets.
understand it. I was reading a newsletter from this guy named Clint, who writes for Wired, and he actually expressed minor interest in the show. So anyway, he might come to the show anyway. But he was just talking about, like, you know, managing social media and, like, too many distractions and kind of how to manage all that. Anyway, one of the things he talked about is that he got so regularly used to using Twitter that he would think in tweets. Which
that's funny.
Is just
I could see that.
Such a foreign concept to me because I'm the opposite. It's like, how do I fit what I want to say into a tweet? It's so hard for me.
Right. Right.
But then you extrapolate that to someone watching media and, like, looking forward to criticism on Twitter, and they're just like, yeah, I don't know what to think. I need to hear it in like 140 characters. Like, I could see someone getting to that point.
I mean, I know.
Like,
I'm familiar with, like, the manipulation of the way that your brain thinks, just because, like, there was a time where I was, like, writing a lot of rhymes and raps and stuff like that, and my brain, I literally would, like, think normal things and try to rhyme them, which is really what, like, good freestylers do that I am not and will not ever be. But, like, that's the, you know, train your brain to only think in terms like that.
Sure.
It becomes very easy, you know?
Yeah.
But tweets, no. I've never mastered the art of the tweet.
I definitely have not as of yet. I doubt I ever will. I will say, though, I am pretty well trained in just making dick and fart jokes out of most things.
That's fine. That's good. That's a skill. That's a
yeah,
skill.
that is a skill, and I think it lends to our podcast. So, you know what? Let's start. Wait, did you have something?
I was going to ask you a question about last episode, because I wanted that to lead into this, because I had a thought while I was watching this, and I realized that they did something here I've never seen in, like, a superhero genre.
Okay.
I just wanted to run
Ask
by.
away.
Did in the last episode when it ended, and you saw the interrogator and his face all burnt, right? Did any part of you, did anything in your brain go, oh my God, I wonder how that impacted his family and how hard traumatically that must have been for maybe his wife or husband and their child? Like, did you think that at all?
When I first saw him, no.
Okay. I never ever would have. Like in my head, like, if I were to think, if someone was like, yeah, what do you think happened after that? Oh, they probably took him back to their lab and they, like, did surgery on him, and, you know, he went to some super secret dark cellar somewhere, and, you know, that's where they, you know, patched him up and they gave him the suit and they said, go back and get Legion, you know? But that's like, no, like, this, for whatever reason, chose to be like, no, like, he's a person and he has feelings, and so does his husband, and, like, it's very sweet, and that person that you hate so much, yeah, this is gonna rip your heart out.
No, like, this is very much the first third is about Clark's story, and I definitely did not get any, like, when he showed up, like, let's face it, he is super burned, right?
Oh my God.
Right? Like, if he wrote Kissed by a Rose on the Grave, he still would not be a hit. Like, he is just a few more shades too burned to even be a pop star at this point, even with a hit like that. Which I do love that was also on the soundtrack.
He's a whale, not a seal. Oh, you're right. Good point. That's technically a superhero song.
Yeah, that is a superhero song. So, man, all encompassing, really firing on all cylinders today.
Nice.
Anyway, yeah, like, you get everything, right? Like, what it really reminded me of is when he first sees his face and he asks for the mirror. Do you remember, like, the Joker seeing himself in the 1989 Batman movie?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep.
It reminds me of that so much. They even did it at some point, like, Simpsons did a joke on it, but, like, the scene where he's like, give me the mirror, and he sees it and then he smashes it and just starts laughing maniacally.
I was gonna say, because he just starts laughing, which is not quite what happens in this.
No, but I mean, the difference being he's the Joker, this is Clark.
That's true. No, I like that. I could be like a sort of offhand reference.
Yeah, I mean, you get to meet his husband, who is like, you know, how's my handsome little guy? Like, it is kind of heartbreaking.
It is. Well, then at the end, he, like, puts on this red suit, and part of me, it was done with such care, that scene, that I was like, am I supposed to recognize this, like, Kane in the red suit? Is this, like, a guy from X-Men? And I guess that's more a question. Is this a guy from X-Men?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I should have done my research, but I do think, like, the cane, the suit, you know, him trying to get regulated to desk work, but he obviously isn't going to take that. Like, he's putting up a fight. I think they are basically just showing, even if he isn't an actual like established villain, that he is now a villain.
Okay, that's good.
He was
because
already
he's got-
kind of one, just because of what he
That's
was
true.
doing, but he was also just a government,
Well, apparently he has just a locker somewhere where inside of it is a neatly pressed red suit and a new cane with a wolf's head on it. And that's just like chilling there waiting for him. Like, I don't know when he anticipated using that, but it's just there. And so he comes up and he opens it, and there's his nice red suit, and he like touches it sensually, and then he throws away in slow motion his old cane as he grabs the wolf head. And I'm like, this is very specific, man. This dude has been waiting for this wolf. It's like it empowers him.
I don't know. Like, maybe he had that suit ordered for like I don't know what division of the government he works for. Let's just say NSA,
Right.
spying on everyone.
Right.
Maybe there's like an annual NSA gala, and he had like bought this for it. It's like in a month from now, but he's just like, what? I'm obviously not going to show my face there now, so got to use it for another thing.
I guess I'm just a super villain now.
Like I can't let that suit go to waste. I was really excited about that.
Fantastic.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I love there's the confrontation. Like, so it starts with the confrontation from last episode, but then kind of diverts into what Clark's family has gone through as well as himself, and kind of his origin of, I guess, now being a villain. But it's such a pitch perfect moment when David just makes the shortest work of their men. He basically makes them fuck each other's ears.
Yeah.
Like, he waves his hands and they're all in this giant orgy, and they're all just kind of like humping each other's heads.
Do you hear the noises they're making? It's so awkward. Like, I guess, I know, yeah, it really, that kind of speaks to your analogy, because they are just kind of like, oh no, okay,
God,
what are we gonna do?
That's not a legitimate hole. That's what they're
You
yelling.
can't put that there.
Yeah.
Not
I'm
now.
outraged.
I told you not in public.
So yeah, that's at that point I don't know, where were you thinking it was going to go from there? Because like, oh god, I kind of thought it was going to be this fight scene, and it didn't. I
did too, but it was the interesting part to me, because I'm consistently watching David going, does this halo thing he has on his head really work? I'm like, is Farouk really stuck, or is there a part of David that's still not really David? And it was a non-violent action that was so showy and large, but still didn't hurt anyone, that made me go like, oh, okay, so I think this is real David. Like, real David would have done something like that, which is like showing off, like, hey, here's what I think of your army, but without actually hurting any of them. So I thought that was kind of clever. I think it was weird to watch. Like, it's a very weird thing to look at.
A very weird thing, because it shows his power is like, yeah, he's not having people get stuck into walls and stuff with blood everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
The way I summed it up was, thank God for David's tiara. He's a princess of punishment. That's my note.
I was going to say, you just been waiting to say that? You just had that?
I actually haven't. I've just been scrolling through it. I was just like, oh, that's where we're at. Because, I mean, it is one of those things like, thank God he has the tiara on, because otherwise they would have all been annihilated.
Tiara? That's a way better name for it.
The tiara. He has a little bit of princess at this point, right?
Yeah. Well, and so he
Shadow
he does
King?
that, and then, he's a prince. Oh, God damn it.
Right?
Damn.
I'm really firing today.
You really are, man.
It must be the fact that I'm on a couch with fleas, which I'm not too happy about. We were on vacation for a week, and we took the dog, and somehow we come back and one couch has fleas.
Fleas?
Yeah,
Oh.
I'm like, what? So I have to deal with that, but not before podcasting.
Meanwhile, it's not 9 a.m. right now, and I have coffee, and I never make coffee, but I made coffee, because damn.
These morning podcasts, like, they make you want to, if the viewers obviously can't see this, but I'm kind of holding the coffee with both hands, like one does, in like a coffee commercial.
Sure.
And then I just like to get
nice.
real close up to the mic and, talk radio style, right? That's how morning shows are supposed to go.
It is. You just, you have to look cozy with a cup of coffee, and you have to get really, really sensual with your microphone.
Mm-hmm.
You have to cuddle with it.
So
and he also tells Patanomy to put down the gun. That was the other thing I was going to say. Is right after that, Patanomy holds up a gun and he says, put that away, or something like that. So this is a very like Gandhi David that we're seeing right now.
Yes, Gandhi David. Good call.
Gandhi.
So what happens after this, though? I'm honestly trying to remember what it cuts to afterwards.
Well, because Clark now doesn't have the upper hand, they take him inside and put him in a room with Carrie, where they give him like a really like appetizing looking glass of water.
Nice.
Whenever I see like really really clean glasses of water like that, it always makes me thirsty. Like, hey, no ice, slightly chilled.
Yeah,
the shape of the glass perfectly parallel.
I am like, it's one of those things, like I am incredibly aware of marketing, right?
Yeah.
And like, just certain tricks, like this isn't marketing, right? Like product placement, but I'm just aware of like commercials and trying to make things out, and yet it does nothing to keep me from falling for it. Like I will see a glass of water and immediately be thirsty.
I'm like, yeah.
Every time I see someone smoke a cigarette, will want a cigarette.
But that's the thing. Advertising doesn't use like really clever, like mind tricks. Like they're not just trying to get you. Like they're using really human urges. Like you cannot help the fact that when you see something, appetizing, and you are even slightly hungry, that you want that thing. Like that's just a human urge, and no matter how aware of it you will ever be, it will never stop because you'll never stop being hungry. So
I guess, yeah. It's one of those things.
They're
like,
just exploiting your body, basically.
Pretty much. The one thing that always is always weird to me though is the cigarette one, because I don't like smoke other than like socially with a friend every now and then. Yet I will watch an episode and be like, I could go for a cigarette, and if I do bum one off someone, I'll be like,
yeah,
that still didn't taste very good or live up to what that show just showed me.
The difference might be that I've only had like 2 cigarettes in my life. And, I didn't mind them, but I don't remember. If you were to ask me like what smoking a cigarette feels like, I don't know that feeling. I haven't done it enough to be able to recall that feeling on the spot. Whereas even though you don't smoke regularly, like you've done it enough that you can remember what that feels like. So when you see it happening, your body automatically is conditioned to kind of feel that way again, right? And so it's similar to food. It's kind of like a craving.
I would buy that if it weren't for the fact that like I was very much tied to sex and cinema well before I ever had it.
Oh.
No,
all right, the exception that breaks the rule. Fine, that's true.
Okay.
That's a good point. Well, anyway, so
yeah,
they lock Clark up, and their goal is going to try to be, now they got to get Farouk out of David's head. That's where they're sort of at. But I think this happened after. There's this moment where Sid is in the room. No, I'm wrong. That hasn't happened yet. I'm jumping ahead. Because
I was gonna say, like, you mentioned Carrie trying to get her out. Like, one of the things they show early on, and it kind of doesn't resolve itself. It's just kind of shown throughout the episode, is the fact that like Carrie and Carrie are not on the best of terms right now.
Yeah. Which, remind me, why again he left her or something?
Yes.
When
so like
in the astral plane.
Yeah, they all got, last episode they all kind of got separated. So there's the whole black and white silent film portion where it is female Carrie and Sid.
Yeah.
And then he is separate, and I think doesn't know where she's at, and kind of takes off.
But that's my thing. This is one of those circumstances I think we've talked about on this podcast again, where there is conflict due to miscommunication. That's it, and that's frustrating to me.
Yeah. So what could he have said? Like, he does try to address it. I mean,
hey, I looked for you. Where the hell were you? I didn't know where you were. I thought maybe I'd find you on the way out. Like, I didn't just purposefully abandon you. Like, I looked, man. You weren't there. You know?
That's kind of how I feel.
She's like, you should have done everything to find me.
Yeah, like what is everything? Get mental powers and go into that like black and white silent film realm? Come on, Carrie.
It's not like I saw you had an come on, Carrie 2.
Or Carrie
it's not like
1.
I saw you and had an option to save you and then chose not to, but we're treating it that way. So this is just sort of conflict there that's just happening where his, but every time there's an example of this in cinema where there's conflict due to miscommunication, it's always literally like half sentences like, Carrie, come on, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, can we talk?
And like shifty glances. Half of it's not even dialogue,
not dialogue,
just like
no
pouty
actual
lips
conversation. And she just like turns away like, I don't want to hear what you have to say, even though it's like, no, you really do. Like, what I have to say actually explains a lot, and you might want to listen.
Yeah.
Because this whole fight is frivolous and dumb.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my rant.
I would agree. I think she also might be slightly emotionally compromised just from the fact that, like, the episode before that, she had her ass beat and almost died.
True.
Right? So, like, I think it's just the fact that there's so many harrowing events that it's just kind of wearing on her, and she clearly is the one that takes those on. Like, she's the fighter, as they've shown in every episode, whereas he's the smart guy. So, like, I almost think of Eugene from Walking Dead. Like, he is the coward character, like, by and large. So I think in general, the other thing they're kind of implying is mean, we haven't seen their other escapades and adventures, but this might be like an ongoing just rift between the two's personalities.
So maybe he just needs to Eugene and just be like, Carrie, I'm sorry. If we can give me a moment, I'd like to talk to you about what just happened.
Yeah, but at least Eugene over communicates. He's usually like textbook references he's giving and this, that, and the other. Yeah, that's a fairly good Eugene.
It was. He'd say it wasn't. Yeah, he'd say, Carrie, it was a flight or fight situation, and I chose flight, and I apologize. It was a natural human urge.
Yeah, pretty much. I love how Eugene's the best. Let's put it that way. Also, kind of the worst if you've watched the most recent season.
I haven't seen the most recent. I haven't seen a lot of it. So.
Well, I'm not going to spoil anything, but what I am going to do, I'm going to throw to a Blue Apron ad.
Ooh, okay, all right. Make me hungry. Natural human urges.
There we go.
Hello there, little buddies. Are you looking to impress your significant other? Well, we've got a way. Yeah, that's right. Go to blueapron.com/BTB and sign up for $30 off your first order. That's right, you can get natural, locally sourced ingredients sent straight to your door to make award-winning meals that'll impress the hell out of your lover. Take this one, for example. The mushroom and barley miso ramen with smoked dulce and spicy red cabbage. What do you say to that one, baby?
Me so horny.
Yeah, that's right. Try it now, little buddies. Sexy porn music provided by bensound.com.
All right, we are back. So, we're gonna get into a few things here. I just wanted to mention, I did like the dialogue where like Clark is now inside and they're kind of just talking about the whole ordeal and being very honest. But we get to see
Melanie.
that. Yeah, well, like with everyone, like it's a round table and he's talking about like you can't just leave us alone. Like, I think Sid says, Sid's like, can't you just leave us alone? And let us have babies. He's like, yeah, but whose babies are gonna win, right? Like,
Yeah, the sandbox fight. Yeah.
yeah, what happens when your babies realize they don't need to listen to us? Like that's what they're worried about. And what you do realize is the whole time the government has bird's eye view, like through his contacts or something.
Right. Yeah, they're watching, which is actually relatively inconsequential in the whole episode. I thought that was going to play a much bigger role. But really, I feel like we were actually getting Clark there talking and being honest, which is the opposite of the miscommunication problem we were just talking about, which I love this about the show, which is its characters are very honest with one another. And so he is actually just saying like, no, yeah, like I'm a villain and here's why I think that and here's why you can't change my mind, you know?
Yeah, I mean, what is he really... what is his end goal that he's proposing? Like, it's not like he's not there to kill David, right? They're there to recruit him.
Right. He was there to kill everyone else.
Yeah.
He wasn't going to kill David. And then Sid mentioned something about she thinks that he cares about David in some way or another because Sid gets this massive plan in her head. So there's this scene that I almost skipped to earlier where Sid is in the White Room, right?
Yes.
And there's a theory we had, and it's not really a theory, it's obvious, but it's not explicitly stated, that this room is sort of a metaphor for their safe space.
Yeah.
Where Farouk can't get, so it's somewhere that David can be playing the banjo, you know, and she can see him there, and he can look and be like, go in the closet, right? But for the most part, other than that scene, this has been a safe space for them.
Sure.
So when Aubrey Plaza comes out from under the bed, I think Sid even says something like, you can't be here. Because she thinks that it's yeah, but she also thinks that Farouk is locked away because of the halo.
Yeah, and so then Aubrey shows up like almost dripping with tar. She has these super evil feet that like I love, you know what I mean? Like it's nonsensical, but that's because it's inside like, your mind, which, if you've ever had a dream, you recall there's plenty of inconsistencies.
Weird,
right?
Inconsistencies, yeah.
So I think that's kind of the idea.
The whole time I'm going like, oh God, she's like getting off the bed and like one of her feet hits the floor and it's all tarry. And I'm like, her other foot's on the bed. Is it tarry? And it's not dragging tar across the bed. But then what you see is that when she steps on the floor and steps up, the tar sort of slowly disappears. I'm like, what a subtle, cool touch to make it feel dreamlike. You know?
It's almost like, it's you're not supposed to be here. And like maybe that's because she normally doesn't leave any kind of trace.
Right. Yeah.
Like so
that could be it. Yeah.
Maybe maybe Farouk has invaded their safe space before, or at least David's safe space. Obviously he did. That's how he got here.
Yep. But this is probably the most important moment of the episode, because this is where, like, the villain explains the master plan, because what she essentially says to Sid is that you can't get me out of David without David dying. Like, is this where the soup metaphor is, which is so good?
I don't remember.
You ever make
soup
soup?
metaphor.
Yeah. She says, you ever make soup? You ever put, vegetables and meat and broth and mix it all together and let it simmer for a while until, it's delicious? And then she says, you ever try to unmake soup? Basically as her reference to, like, you can't take me out of David. Like, once toast is toasted, you can't untoast it.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Toothpaste. Right? Can't put it back in.
Yeah. So it's like exactly the same sort of thing. So it's, you can't get me out unless I choose to leave willingly. So this is where she's convincing Sid that Sid needs to help her in some way to get out willingly. And so they develop some plan off camera here.
They also, I think everyone's been going in this direction, right? Like, I don't think this was too much of a surprise, but it was at least confirmation. She says, I've got other faces, and it gives a flash of little Hitler. We obviously already know Fatty. It's taken over here. So there's not much in the way of repercussions there, other than the fact that you definitely know, like, Professor X or his adopted parents, like, didn't rape him or something.
Yeah.
Like, you're not, because, early on, like, there's these dark memories surrounding bedtime stories from his father, and you're like, my God, what happened when he was a kid? But it really is 100% all Shadow King through and through. Like, he is the source of all David's troubles.
Thank God.
Yes, thank God.
His family's off the hook for the
Can you imagine
shit that happens in his brain.
Can you imagine if Patrick Stewart coming back into role was just to be a child molester? He says all this press that he would definitely do it because the show's so good. Then they write him the part. He's like, "Fuck you, no."
Right? No.
I mean, but he's playing the poop emoji in the Emoji Movie, so I don't think he'd be beneath it.
There's nothing he won't do at this point.
And what's funny is I absolutely adore Patrick Stewart. Like, I just think he is such a phenomenal actor in every way, shape, and form. But I think the other part of him I like is the fact that he also isn't really above things. I mean, he's done Shakespeare and started doing Shakespeare, but at the same time, I don't know if it was Miller High Life or Heineken, but there's some commercial I saw recently he did that was hilarious.
Yeah,
like he does those things.
He's not just
too.
Constantly bashing it either. It's just a fun thing that he did. That I'm sure he got some money for, and it's just a job. But you know what? He doesn't take it overly seriously.
Can we talk about the like Rob Zombie music video that happens in this episode with David, but like the super long fingernails and stuff?
Where it's like grabbing him while he's in the chair.
Yeah,
That's
but it's
good.
also like super like all red lighting or all blue. You know what I mean? Like it very much looks like a dig through the ditches and burn through the witches and slam in the back of my David Howl. Sorry, it still didn't fit.
You can never fit his name into anything.
And that one was just off the top of my head, and I still couldn't do it.
Well done though.
Anyway.
Yeah, that does happen though. So that's the sequence where everyone thinks like, okay, we got this. We're gonna separate Farouk from David. We got this. It's gonna be great. And everyone is confident about that, except Sid, because of the seed that was planted in her head that you can't remove Farouk from David.
And what I love,
which is,
go ahead.
I was gonna say, which is tainted information because it came from Farouk himself. So Sid is just buying into what the devil has to say here. That's all.
Yeah, it's a little bit like whenever there's bad news for Donald Trump, he'll just tweet something out worse. And then people are like, yeah, that's why it's not true. The president wiretapped him. And it's like,
because he
said
it.
But it came from him. It came from the person.
You can't claim.
Yeah.
And that's a whole basis of Sid's like fear here is something that came from the person that stands to benefit from it.
Exactly.
So she was an idiot. She was dumb, Matthew.
What a fucking dummy. So what I also love in the show and also kind of don't like is, you know how Carrie has all the ridiculous like equipment that doesn't actually make sense?
Yeah.
There's a little bit of an appeal to it. That I'm okay with, but I thought it was a bit much that to get the power needed to like remove Shadow King from David fully, that there's this weird, poorly designed cylindrical room of breakers that Oliver has to scale on a ladder. Right? Like the last thing in the world I want is like, oh god, I plugged in an extra blow dryer and now all the power is out. I guess I have to scale a ladder in the dark 20 feet.
That's a really, really good point. That is pretty. There are some tropey things like that is pretty superhero tropey, which is like, or it's Star Warsy too, right? It's like now you just have to climb. Now you just have to climb this big tower and.
Well, it's like in Rogue One.
It's Rogue One. I know.
To get the data, they're like, well, why wouldn't the data be on VHS tapes in like a giant cylinder and it's at least 100 stories up? And to be fair, you explained to me why they do backup stuff on tapes.
Tape, and I thought that was very astute, actually, although also very, very convenient for the story.
Sure.
But large corporations actually do back up their information still to tape. That's actually one of the big services that the shredding company, Iron Mountain, does. I thought they were just pick up your paper that is shredded or shred your paper. But no, they actually do backup information on physical hardware tape. Because it's longer lasting than
it's probably not
digital.
easy to hack, right?
Exactly, you can't access off grid.
And as far as tropes go, like I don't mind the whole like we need more power, we need a bigger boat. Like okay, go over there and float, like throw some switches. But just the fact that it was that there was so many breakers and it was in a giant room and he was having to scale a ladder. That seemed a little bit ridiculous to me.
Although I agree. It still was done with this style of like, I just can't get enough of Jermaine Clements in this, right?
Yeah, he's so
like,
good.
Alone with his goggles climbing a ladder. And I'm like, I could watch 40 minutes of this, man. It's just him talking to himself climbing ladders.
He does definitely make it worth it. I love also that he is like incredibly smart, knows how the brain works, recalls all these other things, obviously isn't like a slobbering like idiot after being in a coma for ages, yet he just does not remember his wife.
Right.
Which I'm sure makes her just feel great.
Yep. Yeah. So in this moment, they're trying to get Farouk out of David, and there's this really cool scene where we go back to the scene of him as a baby. We basically go backwards in time as the Rob Zombie fingers are grabbing him. Mm-hmm. And then we find David and Farouk alone in this room where they're circling around them are images of David as a baby. And David just gets to like basically tell off the Shadow King for the last time. While like he as, Aubrey Plaza is just standing there helpless with like a crooked mouth and can't move, can't say anything, just has to let David scream and yell at her. Which I loved that scene because that is the last... Because before Sid enacts her plan and we get into our final sequence, that's the last moment where David and Farouk are connected and he gets to say, my whole life you've been there and, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Which is nice. Like, we kind of thought that, they had that, 2 episodes back, they had the battle and you thought he was rid of him, but he wasn't. They put the tiara on. And so this is kind of the final one, but it's not really the final one. Ultimately, like, did you like the end finale?
All right. So... I go back and forth. Right?
Yeah, me too.
Because there's a big fight. There's a big fight sequence. Farouk goes into Sid, then goes into Carrie, and eventually, after a fight with David, goes into Oliver.
Yep.
And then we see Oliver and Aubrey Plaza driving away. And part of me wonders, do we need this as a setup for season 2? Could we have, wrapped up more succinctly this Shadow King story so that we can move on to something else? Does it feel a little too superhero-y,
Yeah.
Where it's just a battle where the villain then dies. There's nothing more to be said here about David other than that he had a thing stuck in him and they got it out and it got away and that's it. So that was sort of my concern. It's not that I didn't like the sequences. It was cool, and watching him drive away and watching Aubrey Plaza with this sort of editing trick that they did where she's in the passenger seat but you don't see her until it comes around. Like that was cool, And I guess I like knowing that it's possible that both of those characters will be in season 2 because I like them both as actors.
Sure.
But it felt like maybe that's the only reason that they stayed alive and continued on.
Yeah, so I had a few qualms. So if I had to place it, this actually might be my least favorite episode.
Okay.
And I mean, that's of a show where I haven't complained about a single episode, right? So it's not, it's not saying it's bad. But the Carrie, female Carrie fight with David, I didn't like because that was by far the most superhero thing the show ever had, like an actual fight scene.
Uh-huh.
And that's the one time where it felt like, it's doing such an unconventional thing. And
it felt like Neo realizing he was the one.
Right? Yeah.
I mean, like kicking ass.
Yeah, because there's so many amazing comics out there. Comics are my favorite medium. And one of the things I just love about them is how unconventional and weird they are. But at the same time, kind of like the mainstream and certainly what's adapted tends to be more traditional superhero kind of stories. So I like that this is a story being told that really just, disregards all those conventions. So when it fell into that, I didn't quite like it. And it's not like it was done poorly. It was just, why have a traditional fight scene when everything else has been so mental? And when last episode there was this like crazy battle of the minds to save them from getting shot, right? Like that.
Yeah.
That was a mental fight that I could get behind, right? The other thing I didn't like is the fact that, I mean, in the comics they never kill off villains, right? The comics are made every single month. These characters are going on for 50 years. There's a reason to keep them around. They create new villains. I get that, but ultimately, even if they do die, they bring them back. One of the things I've always really enjoyed about the movies is like, you watch 89 Batman, and
consequences.
Joker's dead, right?
Yeah.
And they never do another Joker movie until they completely reboot the franchise, and you kind of know like that's off limits. So part of me just wanted Shadow King to be like annihilated, and then if anything, maybe end of season 2 or like part way through season 2 have an inkling that maybe he's not, like a fragment of him got stored in someone else.
That would
right?
be good. But see, in that almost, I'm torn because I thought that, but now I'm torn. I'm like, am I asking for something too superhero-y by wanting that? Am I asking for this to fall further into the superhero film tropes that we have now? Or do they have a plan to do something different with this? Later that sort of breaks the genre molds. So,
I would be fine if he didn't show up back again at all either. You know what I mean? It's not like I need him to come back at all, but like I definitely don't like okay, you've had 2 big fight scenes with him. He's still not dead.
Yeah, I agree. It's just dragging on. But what I don't want to be doing is complaining that like it's too superhero-y, but then also complaining that it's not superhero-y enough, Yeah. But I mean, it remains to be seen in terms of what their vision is and where they intend to go with it. If this was just a traditional superhero movie, like if we compare it to like if we compare it to like a Daredevil or something, what we would expect is villain for season 1, battle, end of villain, season 2, new villain, right? And I think we're getting that. I think they chose to do a sort of Marvel, trail, cliffhanger to introduce something new at the end, but we don't really know. We had a post-credit sequence that implies some stuff. But so I don't know where they're choosing to fall in terms of the spectrum of superhero TV shows and what they're trying to fit into and what they're trying to break. But I mean, we'll find out. Season 2, it was confirmed, right?
Yes. The other thing, I mean, the one thing I do like the idea of, like, one, we obviously both like Aubrey and Jermaine, but also just the fact that Jermaine is apparently equally as powerful as David. Which is how he kind of got himself into a coma, like did that to himself with his powers. Right. So if there's anyone that like it's bad news that Shadow King can take over.
Went into there. That's a good point. Because I was wondering if the reason the interrogator was in that hall, or Clark was in the hall, is if I thought Farouk was going to go into him, and this like red suit and Wolf Kane were going to become iconic for like the Shadow King, and that was going to be sort of his new body, and he would always sort of be in that body. Like that's kind of where I thought they were going.
Yeah, and I could have seen that, but they also kind of explicitly said at one point in the show, like, the only reason David isn't dead is because he's a strong enough mutant. Like, you can't withstand a pair. Now, that might be a time thing, right? Like, you can't withstand him for 30 years, so maybe you could take over Clark for, a few days or something like that.
Well, but I guess actually to that, now that I think about it, the second that Farouk went into Carrie and Sid, they had like red eyes and they were like teeming with evil because they couldn't hold it in. Like they became Farouk in that moment.
Like, they could not.
Versus Oliver, who just sort of like steps out, like basically himself.
Yeah, himself, but also kind of off because he's still kind of off at this point after being in a coma. So it works out. I don't know if there's much else to talk about other than the end of it, which he gets thrown into a little Pokeball after they're like celebrating on the balcony, which is very weird. I don't know if this is supposed to be a reference to anyone. It didn't ring a bell to me. My take on it. Oh, okay. I was going to say my take on it initially was just it's the government who's been spying on him through Clark.
Oh, that could be. If this is just a continuation of the D23 storyline.
Yeah,
right?
they're just
because
like, you know what,
obviously
let's
that's
stop
not
sending
over.
people. Let's just send a little drone and trap him and then figure out what to do next.
Right, exactly. And so that could be it, because obviously that storyline's not over. There were some, and I need to do more research into them, but there is a moment in a Legion comic where a ball about this size comes up and starts talking to David on like a park bench.
Okay.
And I didn't read where it originated, but it did not put David inside of it itself. It was this size and similar in shape and design, but it was just talking to him. And so I didn't read much more into it, like what its intentions were. But there was a ball that existed like this in a Legion comic. There also is a like human-sized ball that I guess Magneto sends to capture mutants.
Oh,
I don't know if you're familiar.
No, I don't.
Yeah, so there's something that Magneto has that is like this giant orb that goes and captures mutants, but that is human-sized to fit a person in it. It doesn't shrink them down. So there's also that, but then there's no reference to Magneto or anything like that in the show so far. But those are the only things in the comic, supposedly, that it could reference.
Sure.
Or it could just be what you said. It could just be a continuation of the storyline from this season. You know, more than anything, when I asked myself at the end of a season, did this wrap up a story that I wanted to see completed? You know? And even though it ended sort of more traditionally with this fight and stuff, it still wrapped itself up very nicely. I still think that as a whole, I got a cool story about David, but I do wish that I was able to learn a little bit more about David, and I hope that's what season 2 does, is spend a little bit more time with the character, because so much of this time he's just encumbered by a villain inside his head, this leech inside his head, and I want to spend more time with the actual character and do development with him.
Yeah, no, that's where I'm at too. I also think it would be interesting if they had him have a lot of like almost shortcomings and even like missed memories and stuff, and like wait, you know, like this is a bad example, like wait, what's coffee? You know, just like dumb things like that where it's like
that he's just forgotten.
Well,
well, there has to be fallout. There has to be fallout, right? Because what you can't have is now that the one thing that was evil about him is gone, now he's just you know, the best person. Like, you know, he still has faults and he still has flaws, and those he has to be, or else the show's going to stop being interesting.
Yeah.
The interesting part about it was that David didn't know how to control himself, and he didn't know what was going on with himself. And now that that influence is gone, there has to be some sort of disconnect in him to keep the show interesting.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think how they do it kind of will make or break season 2. But at this point, I have full faith. I mean, this has been a great season. Both seasons of Fargo have been great, so I have a lot of faith in Noah Hawley. And this has been, I mean, I guess the year just started, but this has definitely been my favorite show this year.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, dude. This has broken so many cool like expectations. God, I love the show.
Yeah, absolutely.
Season 2, bring it on.
I know, right? Anything else you want to add before we close out our first season of Legion?
Nah, man. Nah, bro. If you haven't seen the show, watch it. But if you haven't seen the show, why are you hearing me tell you to watch it?
Yeah, why are you listening to just the
why are you
finale?
listening to this? You're an idiot. You're dumb. But yeah, how about this? Tell your friends. Watch Legion.
Yes. So a few things to end on. One, first and foremost, thank you so much for listening, right? Because our viewership continues to grow. We truly appreciate it. We do this out of a labor of love at this point. There's no money being made, but it is exciting to see, you know, an FX show about, you know, C-list characters from X-Men universe.
It's the B-list FX X-Men team.
Right? Yeah, getting, you know, this is the first show that every single episode has broken 200. Like, you know, we saw a few episodes of Westworld, but our listenership is starting to grow. We do appreciate it. Subscribe, rate us on iTunes, tell your friends. A big piece right now just in the podcast community is Tripod, TRYPOD, hashtag it. So if you are a podcast fan, and there's plenty of people aren't, the latest stats are that only roughly 20% of people listen to any sort of podcast, and I guarantee you about 10% of those listen to Serial, and that's it. So there's definitely a lot of room to grow at this point, so let people know. It's an up-and-coming industry that we are super excited to be a part of, and we love doing this for y'all. And Nathan and I will be back. I don't know when we're doing another show together, but I think you're going to probably do Fargo with Fox.
Yeah, that's what the conversations seem to be happening. So I'm excited just to watch Fargo. So if I get the opportunity to hop on and talk with you guys about it, that's gonna rock.
Yep, I'm going to be doing Twin Peaks.
Oh, good.
Well, we're also going to be doing, in the next week, we'll have a best of March out just for recommendations of shows that we weren't necessarily podcasting about. So, yeah, always going to be plenty of content for all of you. So thank you so much. Why don't you put a bow on this bitch, Nathan?
Oh, man. I will see you. I was going to say next time, but there's not a next week, man. This is sad. So sad. Hey, you know what? See you whenever, little buddies.
There we go.